Today we want to show you how to use footnotes in the Microsoft Word program. A lot of students struggle with the whole idea of footnotes in general, but then they have even more complications when they try to go into the Microsoft Word software and insert the footnotes. So today we just want to show you how to do that. So I'm in Microsoft Word. I'm actually using Office 365, but it's the newest, latest version. And so everything should be pretty much the same across your upper ribbon. And these menus, if you're using a different version, then it'll be similar, but you may need to hunt and peck a little bit till you find exactly the same spot. So what I've done here is I've actually created a paper and I've identified a few of the different ways that you would include notes. So here's the note for a book with a single author, and you'll notice what happens here. We have the footnote, and then we have the author's first and last names, then the comma, then the title of the book, subtitle of the book. Notice that the title of a book is in italics. Then we have the open parentheses, the place of publication, the publisher's name, and then the date of publication, close parentheses, our comma, and then this refers to our page number or page numbers, and then the actual period. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my cursor here. So let's imagine that this is a quote, and we're going to replicate this down in the footnote section. So we put the cursor where we want to insert our footnote. We go to the top to our ribbon, and notice I'm on home, but we want to go over to the references. Click on that, and you'll notice that there are different options here. You have table of contents, footnotes, citations and bibliography, captions, index, etc. Now really this area right here is not what we're using. When you change this from APA to Turabian, it's not really going to fix anything for you. So this is not the area that we're going to use. We're going to use this area here called footnotes. So what you want to do is go here and you're going to insert a footnote. So click on this button. Notice how it shoots me down to the bottom and it puts me to the far left. Now we're going to use a sample book by Aubrey Malfers, and so the footnote is first name first, last name, comma, then we're going to insert our title, Being Leaders, colon, and then the subtitle, The Nature of Authentic Christian Leadership, and then we're going to hit a space and open parentheses. This book is actually from Grand Rapids. If it's an unfamiliar city, we would actually include the postal abbreviation for the state, in this case Michigan. Then a colon, the publishing company. Now Baker Books House Company is what you actually see, but we don't need to include this last part because we know it's a publishing house because of where it's in our footnote. Then we're going to hit a comma. Then on the back of the title page of the book, we actually find the copyright date, which in this case is 2003. And then close the parentheses, insert our comma, and then let's make up a page. We'll say it's on page 56. And then we're going to insert a period. So notice that I did all that typing, and unfortunately it's not quite lined up the way it should. So notice up here how we have this indent, the space is here, and notice that this is in Times New Roman. Unfortunately this one's not, so we need to fix that. So the easiest way to do that, the way I do it, is I select all. So hit Control A, that will select all of my footnotes areas at once, and that way if I have multiple ones in there that are wrong, I can fix them all at one time. We're going to go back to the home page, and we're going to select from our font screen to make them all Times New Roman. That way they're all the same font as our major paper. In this case, they all need to be footnote size 10. Double check that. We're going to make sure it's 10. But then notice that we still don't have our indentation. And really, we also need to have a space after it, just like we see here in the Kate Turabian example. So we're going to go back in here. We're going to highlight that. If you'll go back to the top, in the paragraph section, right here in the middle, you'll see this line and paragraph spacing. This is really a unique function that you will use over and over again in Turabian. So we're going to go down to line space options. Then here under the indentation section, we're going to choose special first line. That's going to add the spacing at the beginning. And there we go. Now let's go back and insert another one, and then we'll show, whoop, we forgot to make these italicized, so let's do that for our titles. So we're going to just highlight it, go to the top, and hit the little I, and that turns our titles into titles of books or journal articles into italics. Let's go back to the top and do another one. Notice this time we have a footnote for a book that has an edition number. That is, it's the second edition or it's the third edition. And so according to Turabian, we have the footnote, the author's first and last name, title of the book, subtitle of the book, comma, the edition number, for example, 2 for second, and then the abbreviation ED period, and then the publication information. So let's go here, and we'll go back and do this again. So we go to References, go to Insert Footnote. This time, we're doing a reference for Brian Chappell, comma, Christ-centered preaching, colon, then the subtitle, redeeming the expository, if I can type, expository sermon, comma, and then this is the second edition. Now normally we want to change this down to that, or you can even take it out altogether and just leave 2 ED. So we have the period, now we have the parentheses. This book is also created in, published in the city of Grand Rapids. So this time we're going to leave out the state. And this one is by Baker Academic. We're going to hit our comma. This book is actually written, there's 2 dates listed. Now this is the second edition, and if it is the second edition, then we don't need the first edition's copyright date. So we're just going to use the latest one, which is 2005. Close our parentheses. We're going to use a different page, whatever the pages that we've quoted. So then we have Brian Chappell, Christ-centered preaching. Let's change this to italics. Second edition, Grand Rapids, Baker Academic, 2005. Now notice this font is different. Now we're going to leave it for now, and I'll show you a way to do it at the end. Let's go back up to our third example, a note from a journal article. Now journal articles are altogether different because the way that we list them. So notice here we have the footnote number, author's first and last names, but notice the title of the article is not in italics, but it's in quotation marks because it's a smaller work, but it's inside a larger work, whatever the journal is called, Journal of Evangelical Theological Society, or the Bibliotheca Sacra, whatever it might be. That's the larger work, and that then becomes in italics, followed by the volume number, the issue number, and the date of publication. Notice that we don't have the publishing city and the publisher's name. That all is listed, basically understood within the journal title itself. And then we have the range of pages on which the article is found. So let's go here and let's do an example. We're going to do an article that was written by Sidney Greidanus. So we're going to insert his name, comma. Remember, the title of the article goes in quotation marks, Preaching Christ from the Old Testament. Now this doesn't have a subtitle, so let's go back and look. Title, subtitle, then we insert our comma, and then we close our quotation marks. And it's in Bibliotheca Sacra. So that's the name of the journal, and we're going to put that in italics. Go back to our space here. Let's go back and look. Title of journal. Then we need the volume number and the issue number. Now, not all of them have issue numbers. So this one actually just has 161, and then let's say it's in volume number 2. I'm not sure the volume off the top of my head. And then we're going to list the date of publication. This one is actually January through March 2004. And then notice here we have a colon and then the page range ending with a period. So we go back down here at our colon. This article actually shows up on pages 3 through 13, and then we insert our period. Now, again, notice that we have a space separating our Kate Turabian entry from our Aubrey Malfers entry. This is correct. Should be single space within the entry, but then a space should occur between entry 1 and entry 2. But notice we don't have that for 3 and 4, neither do we have our indent. So we're going to fix all of this at once. Here's how. We're going to click into our footnote. We're going to do Control A for select all. It's going to select all of our footer information at once. So let's go up to Home. We're going to change it all to Times New Roman so we're all the same font. We're going to verify that we're all in font 10. And then we're going to go back to our line and paragraph spacing button. Down to line spacing options. And then we're going to go back to indentation. And we're going to select special first line. That's going to make the indent just like we want it. But we need to add a 10-point space after it so that we have the appropriate spacing between it. So we're going to go to the spacing section after, and we're just going to type in the number 10. Now, why 10 and not 12? Well, the footnotes are set at 10-point font. So we want our space to be 10-point font. And so that's going to fix it right there. Whoop, that didn't do right. Let's go back and look at that. I think it needs, so let's go back to our, whoop. It needs to have that PT. That's why it didn't come out right. So then we hit OK. And there we go. Perfect footnotes. We have the indentation, the number, the space, the title of the author's first name, then last name, the name of the book, the edition number, the city, the publication, the publisher rather, and the publication date, followed by the page number. All footnotes must end in a period. Then we have the space between it, Aubrey Malfers. Then we have the title and its subtitle. Then we have the city. And again, we want these to be the same. So because we know that Grand Rapids is in Michigan, let's actually delete this because we know these are the same and we want to make sure it's listed correctly. Then we have the space, author, everything's looking good. Now, one way to do this is to insert all your footnotes as you go, and then at the end to modify them and do all of this fixing at once. The problem with that is sometimes it makes your paper longer than you thought it would be. So I tend to do it over and over again as I write the paper. As I add a couple of footnotes, I'll go back in, do select all, check the font, select the size, fix the spacing. For those who are a little bit more advanced, one thing you might do is learn how to use your styles. And you can actually go in here and create a style for footnotes, and that way you can have this preset and it will do it all for you. But that's a little bit more advanced, but I encourage you to use that style button up there at the top. Well, this is how we do footnotes in Turabian. Just a couple of final reminders. Titles of larger entities such as books or journals, the names of journals are always printed in italics. Smaller entities such as a chapter within a book or an article within a journal or an article within a dictionary, those are printed in regular type, that is not italics, but they're enclosed in quotation marks just like this, a article in a journal. And then when in doubt, refer to Turabian chapters 16 and 17 for the basic function and form, as well as the chapter 17 shows you the special cases, if you will, of different types of articles and books and dictionaries and word studies, different editions and all that. Well, good luck with Turabian. Email us if you have questions.